Hopefully I'm on time with this one, and I've got nothing else to say except let's get this done. Oraxia's farm was pretty easy, all things considered. Not much to discuss, except go do the Eye Weaver mission a few times and hope you get a piece. However, what's really cool is that every item has an equal chance to drop. No 4.45% chance for a part to drop while the relic is at like 17.31% or something along those lines. You also obtain a pity currency like almost every other release now, and you need 200 to pity Oraxia, and you get 17 to 20 per run. The mission itself is just a smaller Duvirio open area, only doing about 6 objectives. And it's stuff you've already done before, like follow the light in the mirror, kill these Murmur instead of the Dax this time, open this chest, and do the Undercroft objective like 3 times. The new thing being fighting Oraxia, which might be tough depending on what you brought into it because it's still random loadouts just like Duviri. But overall, her fight consists of shoot her, then Scuttler phase, shoot her again, Scuttler phase, then shoot her again until she's dead. The final end boss is not an Ovi-worm anymore, it is the Murmur boss on Deimos times 2, but it's toned down a small bit, not much. There is a new material called Temporal Dust that you need, as well as some Duviri materials. You just need to break a bunch of pots that you find out in Duviri and hope it drops. You need 50 for each part minus her blueprint, and I got about 57 in one run with just my relay resource drop booster. Overall, it's not bad, with my longest run being 23 minutes 45 seconds, but in total, I spent 1 hour, 21 minutes, 48 seconds getting 1 Spinner X Blade blueprint, some Enigma Gyrum, and 2 Oraxia blueprints, and I pitied the rest of the parts. Honestly, an S tier farm. It's very easy to get her and almost everything else the event offers as well. Now for her potential, it's almost the exact same. Oraxia to me already has a very fun potential and a very high potential. Her 1 lets her leap onto a target dealing toxin damage, and if it kills, they have a percentage chance to drop a health and energy orb that you can build to also guarantee a drop for each. It also has a 50% health instant kill threshold, which more on that in a second. Oraxia's 2 is my favorite ability on her. She throws up to 3 webs onto the ground that wrap up enemies on contact. Then enemies that also walk onto it take 2 ticks and they become wrapped up as well, plus whilst they're wrapped up, they take more damage. The damage it deals is toxin and it lasts for 25 seconds on a base. The radius is a little bit small, but 1 reach mod won't be a terrible decision. However, I don't believe it works through walls. I believe enemies have to be within line of sight of where the initial impact of the web is. However, not 100% on that, so don't quote me on it. Oraxia's 3 has her shoot out poison darts, dealing a decent amount of damage. Enemies killed while poisoned spawn her scuttlers that scale very heavily. Killing level 190 enemies spawn a level 500 scuttler dudes for me. You can have 10 max, they don't take any damage, and they work like Necros' 4. More on them also in just a second. Now her 4 activates her spider legs, letting her actually move faster than a snail's pace and gives you a crap ton more health and toxin bonus damage on your weapon. Enemies killed in this mode also explode in toxin. If you use your dodge button, she whips out a silk strand like Spider-Man and follows through with it, and if you do that onto a wall or the ceiling, she'll latch on and double the amount of bonus damage as long as you are latched onto it. She also goes invisible on the wall for a few seconds thanks to her passive. So based off the kit alone, S tier, I hope. She's fun and nuts, but her 1 and 3. So I don't think her 1 is terrible, but as a survival ability in slight energy regen and health, it's kind of bad. Because if you go with blind rage and lower your efficiency, it costs more to use the ability than you'll get back. Although you could also forego strength and do more of a duration range, going for focusing on her 2 to ensnare as many peeps as possible, which then would make her 1 a lot better. However, the 50% instant kill threshold is pretty good for late game anything, so that's a very good utility, and maybe anything else that deals with picking up health orbs, like certain mods. I only mention this because her 3 is also kind of meh in terms of the scuttle dudes. Kinda. They just don't do a lot of damage, but they draw aggro. And since they do toxic damage, if you run Archon Continuity, when they do Toxin, or you do Toxin, you also do Corrosive. I only mention this because her 1 and 3 to me are the subsume abilities, depending on what you want. And honestly, that's kind of amazing to me because that means there's options. But still, even with those choices, she's still S tier to me. We've talked about this gun before, but not the normal version's farm. And honestly, it's just a bunch of mining and fishing and or doing these little sigil things on Deimos, and the occasional Plains of Eidolon visit. Since I already had most of the materials, I had to spend like 20 minutes getting a few more parts. However, there is one part that just absolutely sucks. The Seraglass shard. My god, do I actually hate it. Deimos has this weird token system where you trade in certain things to certain people based on their respective occupation, like fish for the daughter, minerals for Otek, bounties for mom, etc. And you need those tokens for grandma, which you trade in like various amounts to get like 1 to 4 grandma tokens. And it's so dumb because you need like 5 or a lot more to get 1 to 4. And say you trade with father, where some of his are only like 1 token. That also applies to all the vendors, because some mats may also be easy for you to get tokens, like 7 ganglion. Cool, 1 token. To get 4 tokens, you need a rare material, and a bunch of this common material, but the rare material is kind of hard to get. It just sucks. Now, when you trade for those materials, you now have to wait a couple hours for it to refresh to get more. Plus, sometimes you need only 1 token for a grandma token, or you may need like 4 or 5 for a grandma token, and you need 20 for 1 Seraglass shard, and grandma tokens are also on a timer. That part ruins the Trumna farm for me, and I don't particularly like it. Unless there's some easy method that isn't just stay in Deimos for a few hours at a time, just getting mats, and it's going in C tier. Mainly because it's not strenuous, just tedious. For its potential, it's just the Trumna Prime, but worse. So where I put the Trumna, it's going about 1 to 2 tiers lower. Also, its reload is very, very bad. So technically this is going into F tier, with either way this was obtainable, but in all honesty, for and giggles, I'll let you guys decide where it goes. When I started playing the game, it was the 500-day reward, which is F tier. Then when I got back into the game, it changed to being a choosable weapon at 100 days with the Zyma and Zenistar, and then 300 adding the Sigma and Octanus. So it's still F tier in that regard too, but again, for and giggles, you guys get to choose. However, you don't get to choose how I feel about its potential, mainly because it's alright. Its main gimmick can now be applied to every weapon thanks to Cyto 9, and I like it, and it's fun, and it being a decent automatic gun with status over crit, then using the gimmick making it a semi-auto with infinite punch through and a crap ton of crit. So it's cool, but Cyto 9 kind of just makes every gun go through walls now, and the gimmick goes away on reload, but sometimes it also just kind of goes away? I don't get it. And the disc it shoots out also doesn't last until the next reload and will just go away after a few seconds. And it also doesn't really go that far for marking the targets, but it also just has a big radius to mark them anyway. So its stats carry it, but would you rather have a gun that does this or play a Warframe that lets every gun do this? Or would you rather have a gun like the Tenet Flux Rifle that does its stats but better? C tier because I'm heavily undecided because it's not terrible, but it's not a huge, hey, you should pick me kind of gun. And onto a notoriously low drop chance blueprint. And I won't deny, it does kind of suck, because you get it from one node, and if you've watched my other videos, we've been to a lot. That being said, the Akarius drops from the demolishers that spawn when you put a key into the disruption thingy, and it has a drop chance of 1.25% for each demolisher. I have only gotten 2 blueprints from all of these videos, and I have no clue which one I got it from because I didn't write it down. So based on that, it's going into F or D tier based on drop chance. And how many times I've been in these missions? Sometimes for 2 hours. This gun also has a prime variant, but I've never talked about it before. So here we go. The Akarius is pretty good when you're not shooting yourself with it, or being relatively close to it, but it shoots at explosives that do a good amount of damage, so if you're immune to knocking yourself over with your own shots, it's a good secondary to run specifically for damage. It's a status gun that when I played with on Oraxia, it got carried by her 4, but it does damage on the shot and the explosion it releases overall. I'd put the prime variant in A to S, so this goes in B to A. The farm for this is, it depends to F tier. Having to rely on borrow to then spawn with the relics needed to get the weapon is terrible. Honest to God, now that I think about it and I'm saying this, it is just F tier. It is terrible regardless. However, I had the link already and just needed the blueprint and another Magnus. And a while ago, he had relics for it. So I picked them up and I got 2 Formas, 1 Magnus blueprint, and 1 Akmagnus blueprint, being very lucky since it was a silver, I believe. I specifically got it from this video. But man, it is just a weapon. It's even recent too, and I don't think it's that good. It's just the Magnus Prime with more ammo. Like, it does okay damage and has a passive letting it shoot infinitely for 4 seconds with a 4% chance to proc it, which it can re-proc itself in that time as well. Just the regular Magnus also has that, plus the damage difference according to the wiki isn't even all that big between the two, and I mainly think it's because of the reload times being different. I think it's because the reload time is only 1.2 seconds faster, because technically you're reloading 2 a little bit faster than reloading 1 twice, and the magazine size is only a little bit more, only having a 100 DPS difference. But on that same thought of stat differences, the Akmagnus has a worse Riven disposition than its singular counterpart. It's also overall just not a good gun. It does have a good crit chance, status chance, and crit multiplier, but I'm just not overall convinced, especially using it. To me, it's C tier. Just use the regular Magnus Prime and just make it better. I was generally not impressed. Also, if this thing is lower than the Ultranox, I'm also just gonna move the Ultranox down even more. Another video down, another one to go. We added 45 to the workout counter, making it 3,555. From then until the last video, I've done only 215, adding a few more reps, bringing it down to 3,430. It's 3,430 because I added 125 because I didn't fully complete them from the last video, as I realized I counted my curls wrong. Regardless, I'll get even more done by the next video. But what is in the next video? Well, the Athodai, the Canter, and the rest of the secondary Coda weapons. With that out of the way, thank you for watching, and as always, take care of yourself.